Your book is your business. It's time to mind the business that pays. Let's talk about it. Come on in the room. All right, welcome back to the Book Banker Podcast. I am Aaron, the publisher, excited to bring you another episode of the Book Banker Podcast series. Listen, this is the opening season. There's so much insight, so much information, so much knowledge that I want to transfer to you, and I hope that you will stick with me to the end. Make sure that you like and comment. Breaking news. You are not just writing a book, you're now building them. Breaking news part 2 is your book is a business. It is not a brand. So let's walk into it. Let's get into it today. So first, let's talk about what our business is. Anytime you open up a business, you must open up your books, right? So if there's an investor interested in seeing what it is that you're doing because they're about to give you a loan, perhaps they're going to invest some money or maybe they want to buy equity shares on your business. If you don't know what your numbers are, that's the first thing that a person is going to look at and say, well, I'm not sure I want to do business with you. And right. So knowing what our numbers are critically important. And oftentimes that can be intimidating, but it doesn't have to be. So when we look at a book as our business, we are doing this with the understanding that we're not doing business like the world, nor are we following in line with a pattern or a trend. We are moving in a new direction. We are in a new class, right? We are in the creative capital class. We have reclassified ourselves beyond just paper pushers. We're no longer just turning pages. We're turning paper into profit. And that's a critical thinking skill that you have to understand when you sit down to draft your book. There is a process in which you build that book, and the equity in that book makes room for more for you. So the first thing is minding your business is your vision. It's your vision. We're going to talk about your plan, your strategy, the implementation of that strategy, and then the delivery. First, let's look at the vision. We talked about the vision and how we see through our eyes, not just with our eyes. We also talked about how your words are for creativity and not just for communication. There is a difference between talking and speaking. Talking is cheap, but speaking gets resources, money, contracts, invoices, pay, all kinds of things. Like speaking, people get paid to speak. Just for speaking 20, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. You can sit on a podcast and you can earn money by sitting on a podcast, or you can stand on a stage and earn $30,000, $40,000 in an hour just from speaking. And it's not because the person is up there running their mouth, right? That's what a person who's talking doing. But a person who is speaking is actually activating the imagination in the audience, and they are moving them from where they are systematically to another place of thought, to another place of consciousness. They are able to take the reader or the listener by the hand and bring them into a place they never thought they'd go and keep them there longer than they thought they'd stay. They're opening up the possibilities that there is so much more than what is in front of them. People who are great speakers see through their eyes and not with their eyes, and they activate that same imagination in you. It is what causes conversion to take place. If you were limiting yourself to the room you're in, or feeling like I'll be great when I get there. There are people who say, well, if you just give me the money, I'll do it. Or if you just get me in, then I'll know what to do when I get there. How many of you know that you have to be everywhere your feet are? There is no place called there. Whenever you're saying, well, I'm going to get there one day, or I'm working on it, or one day it's going to be, no, today is the day. There is no other day. Today is the day. While you are present and while you are hearing me, this is the day for you to walk into the best season of your life. This is the day for you to own yourself. Why are you waiting? If you were in jail and I said today is the day that you're going to be set free, would you say, no, my sentence is 30 years to life, so you come back in 30 years? Or if I walked into your cell and I say, hey, it's time for you to come on home with me and meet your family and come back and sit at the table and have dinner tonight. Oh no, I got 5 more months to go. No, you would be like running. You'd be gathering your stuff, trying to see if it's real. You'd be like, oh, who is this guy? Where's the warrant? Where's the warrant? Is this for real? Am I free? Am I off? If you owe $10,000, you've been paying on a student loan for years, year after year after year after year, and it just doesn't seem to be going any better for you. It seems like you're getting in more debt. The more interest is growing while you sleep. And then suddenly one day somebody say, you know what? Your debt is canceled. You don't owe it anymore. He said, oh no, I have 15 more payments to make. or I have 2 more years on this plan. I can't let it go right now. But if I told you that today is the day, and while you are present and while you are hearing me, you can in fact transition and translate and transform from being the author who sits down getting the royalties and let people pay you pennies for your thoughts to someone who owns the intellectual property as an asset and a book business owner. If I told you that, you wouldn't believe me. Why wouldn't you believe it? Listen, believe means to agree. If you believe, then you agree. I'm asking for your agreement. I'm asking for you to come into a different level of consciousness. What does it cost you to pay attention? All I'm asking is for your attention today. And I believe that if you lean into this truth, your life will never be the same and you'll never be broke another day in your life. Then once you have your vision set and you better understand who you are, it is time to make your plan. If you have written a book and you did not have a plan, then you have a liability and not an asset. You must have a plan. A person who does not plan is planning to fail. And I want you to understand that a plan by itself is nothing but a plan. Because if you don't have a strategy to go with that plan, then you just have a great idea. But if your idea doesn't have structure around it, then there's no profit to it, right? So I told you earlier where I came up with this concept of a penny for your thoughts. So my dad had asked me, we were in a car and my father looked over to me and he was like, son, a penny for your thoughts. And I was probably like 7 or 8, maybe 9. And I'm like, what do you mean a penny for my thoughts? What are you talking about? And he's like, well, you look so serious. It looks like whatever's on your mind, it must be worth $1 million. I want to give you a penny for it. Well, I was thinking, and I said, well, if it's worth $1 million, why you only want to give me a penny? But is that not us? Is that not what we do when we trade visibility for viability? We'd rather be visible. We'd rather go viral. We'd rather have a book we can hold up. And so we get in a relationship with a publisher and we'll sign a deal and we'll give them $1 million and let them give us pennies. Isn't that book full of our thoughts? Isn't that book full of our adventures? Isn't that book full of our experiences? So why are we giving it over to someone else? Because we are too lazy, or are we too uneducated, or do we lack knowledge or expertise? No, we have all of those things. We are, as I told you, you are a transformative, intelligent, brilliant, creative genius. You're not lacking for intelligence. You're not lacking transformation. You're not lacking brilliance, nor are you lacking creative genius. You really are a genius. I don't care what the schools taught you. I don't care what the classrooms you sat in taught you, but you're in a new class today. You are elevated today. You are no longer looking at this person and the man in the mirror. That man is gone. Them days are dead. That version of yourself is over. You are transformative, intelligent, brilliant, creative genius. And it's time for you to stop giving away millions for your thoughts when you should, and giving and receiving pennies in exchange. Because did you know that if you sold millions of copies of a book, let me just throw this number out there, hypothetically, since we're talking about millions, if a publisher cleared a net earnings after the store's been paid, the retailer, the distributor, and all those other fees and all those things, if $1 million was cleared, you know how much you're likely to see from that? $70,000. You know why? Because you probably signed a deal that gets you about 7%. And that's on traditional publishing, right? That's not, and that's being eaten up by the advance that they gave you. If you had a vanity press publisher, which is probably expired and don't use them much anymore, but you paid an upfront cost to have your book stocked and warehoused and then sent on your behalf, those don't really matter anymore because we're in a digital age where print on demand is what's hip and what's happening, and audiobooks are the trend. But if you don't understand this fundamental truth, and you lock yourself into a contract, and I'll surprise you, even if you have self-published a book and you are getting a contract that says you get 100% royalties, you still are leaving money on the table. And if you didn't know that you could earn up to 85% of every sale of every single book and not have to wait a month, a year, or even whatever your payment cycle is, you could actually get paid this minute, this hour, right now, today, while I'm present, while I'm hearing you. Would that be worth it to you to know that? Would you lean in then? Would I get your attention then? Would I get your agreement then? Or would you like to say, oh no, I like to sit back. I got 6 more years on this contract that's paying me pennies on the dollar, or I haven't finished the judge told me, hey, the judge said it. The court decided it. I have been sitting here for the last 3 months trying to finish out my 9-month sentence. I don't care what Aaron says. I don't care if he's coming to set me free. I don't care how much he has promised that this is the day that everything in my life changes and I am free from this moment on. I'm going to sit in this cell. You wouldn't do it. But you sit there and let people rob your bank account. You sit there and let them rob you blind right now. Did you know that if you don't own your book as an asset, that you are the asset? And did you know that your work and your intelligence could be borrowed against and being liquidated by a producer, a publisher, a business that you've given over the express written consent from in your 360 agreement or just a standard publishing agreement? Because you didn't know what I'm telling you today. You didn't know you didn't have to. You didn't know you had options. You've watched one-hit wonders disappear. You've watched TLC, for example, over $175 million in sales or records. I don't know if it's sales or records, what the number is, only clearing about $50,000 and having to declare bankruptcy Chapter 11 because they could not afford to pay the label back. You watch Whitney Houston and The Bodyguard in the greatest movie of all time in terms of selling for an artist and all those accolades that came with it and that stellar career and touring around the world and walked away from this earth owing the publisher or the developer of her work more than $20 million. You've watched it. You've seen celebrity after celebrity do residencies in order to pay off debts. You watched it. You watch people show up and say they put all this time and they've danced and they've been in music videos. They've been on MTV, BET. They've been at the Grammys. They've been at the Oscars and they're broke. You watched it. And you said, oh, I still want to be that. Oh, I still want to do that. Yeah, sign me up for that. Yeah, sign me up for that. While you watch them beg for their publishing rights. You've watched them talk about how they don't own their rights to their publishing work or they have to fight for it or sue for it. And even after suing, they still don't get it. Why? Because the contracts are true. Nobody robbed them. Nobody stole anything from them. But guess what? A fool pays for knowledge. When people put papers in front of you, those papers have words on them and those words have capital. And in perpetuity, you can reverse engineer those proceeds coming to you or you can gift them away and get pennies on the dollar. The choice is up to you. If you want to trade your thoughts for pennies, hey, when the person looking at them knows they're worth millions, hey, that's up to you. So when my dad said it looks like whatever you're thinking, it must be worth $1 million, I want to give you a penny for it. And I declined and I was 7 or 8 years old. I'm still declining. You know why? Because you're not about to give me pennies for my thoughts. Okay. And so again, you need a strategy with your plan and then that plan needs an implementation. So you have to have a structure around your vision. So it doesn't profit you to just have a vision. When you don't have a vision, you wait to come into rooms. When you have vision, you bring the room. You are the room. You're not looking for a seat at the table. You're bringing your own chair. Why? Because you are the chair of your future. You are the chair of your own business. You are the commander in chief of your own intelligence and your life. Everything that you think you own. If it started in your mind, you own it. And you deserve to be compensated for it and compensated heavily. Not only should you price it, you should price it aggressively. Why? Because you said so. It is going to be what you said it was going to be. Have you ever been to Disney World? I know I have. I've been to Disney World. It's one of my favorite places to go, right? I didn't go as a child, so when I was an adult, I was so excited to finally be able to go. My wife and I went to Disney World a couple of times before we even brought our children. The first time we went, funny story, we didn't have any money, so we were sponsored, right? So we were just so glad to have gone. We didn't have a honeymoon. We'd been married about 3 or 4 years, and we just wanted to get on a plane and go somewhere and do something. So we had hooked up with this other couple, and we linked up with a timeshare. So you know about timeshares. You go, you sit down, you go through the presentation, and we flew all the way to Florida with no ticket and no entry. And we got there with no money, no idea what to do next, but go to this hotel and meet with this guy who's going to pitch us about a timeshare. And if we sat through the process, then we get free tickets to Magic Kingdom at Disney World. And so it was. We ended up sitting through the presentation and literally wanted to choke them and fight them. And I used all kinds of threats and whatever to get out of it. But we got our tickets. And the next day we ended up at the Magic Kingdom. It was our first experience. It was short-lived. And long story short, that was something that was some time I wish I could get back, but I couldn't. But I thought about it later on, and I thought that was a learning experience. That was a moment where I could take something from. I learned in that moment that I don't lose, I learn. And so the next time I went, I decided we were going to go ourselves on a weekend trip, and we stayed at one of the value resorts. And so this time we went and we stayed at a value resort. It was just the two of us. I think we flew in on a Saturday, and then we were flying back out on that Tuesday. So we got up early Saturday morning on the first flight out as early as we could. It wasn't long before we were there. They picked us up. They had at the airport, they had Mickey Mouse on the floor. We followed Mickey Mouse on the floor. We got on the Disney transportation that took us, showed us Disney movies on the way in, and then we showed up there by about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We were in the pool, which was heated pool with Disney music and everything. It was like a $99 a night resort. So it wasn't like this was something major expensive. The tickets for the flight were very cheap. I think we spent less than $500, $600 altogether, travel and hotel or whatever, and that didn't include meals or whatever we had. And then we visited a park, maybe two, I'm not sure, but we went on our own. And while we were there, we were in the pool, and I looked over, and they were building a new development, looked like a new resort. And I said, oh my God, it looks so good. Next time we come, we're going to bring the children, and we're going to stay in that place. That was called the Art of Animation. It's open now, but this was before it opened. And so we said we were going to stay in the Art of Animation. I didn't know what it cost. I didn't know anything. All I knew is I looked at it and I saw it. You know why I decided to dream while I was there? Because somebody told me that Disney World was the most magical place on earth. So if there was an environment for a dream, this was it. So I decided that while I was there, I was going to cast my dream, and I was going to make a wish. And so I told my wife, we're going to be here this time next year. We're bringing the children back, and then we're going to stay in that resort. And so it was. That time next year we returned, and God would have it that it was an all expense paid trip. I'm not going to get into the details of how that thing worked out, but it did. But I walked into a prophecy that I had delivered myself in a place that someone told me it was the most magical place on earth. And I just decided that because of that, I was going to believe. And then there I was, staying in the Art of Animation in the year of its grand opening. And it was more expensive than the value resort we were in. It wasn't that expensive, but it cost more, right? And so we had this great experience there. The children enjoyed themselves. It was their first time going to Disney World. But why did I tell you that story? I told you that story because, number one, words are not just for communication. So I'm not just talking when I'm speaking to you. I'm actually speaking. I'm opening up something in you, in a possibility. Walt Disney was an artist. He loved to draw. He sent his work, which was a coloring series, off to a publisher or producer. And long story short, at some point there was a relationship that soured and didn't go well. And so he began to do something in a different direction. Over the course of time, he acquired property. And in that property, he had a vision. And so he decided to put his vision inside the property. Is that not what intellectual property is? Your property is your mind, right? And you take your vision and you put your vision inside the property, and that property belongs to you. Now the property belongs to you, but it's also an asset. And so when Disney World opened, it was just as he imagined it would be. And then he declared, he had the audacity to declare that this was the most magical place on earth. And guess what I discovered? It wasn't magical at all. It was only magical because he said it was. And because he said it was, even after he died, years later, people go to Disney World believing that it's the most magical place on earth. And it is because he said, and I decided that the environment that I was in, because some old man who was dead years before I ever showed up and I never met, decided that the place I was in the territory I was in, was ripe for the harvest of dreams to be manifested, that I was going to dare to believe in that thing. Because guess what? Two things are true. One, Disney is only magical because he said it was, and it's also only magical to you if you believed it. So if I tell you that you have the ability to do the same thing, meaning you have intellectual property, and that your intellect is not just like grounds, word on the ground, but it's like real estate, but it's a property that have no geographical location. No one can place dominion on it. No eminent domain can come in it. It is yours. It is your mind. Only you can manage it, and it doesn't have a price. It's free. It's yours. You are free to dream. Then you stick your idea on that property, and then that property becomes an asset, and whatever words you put in it, whatever you tell the reader it is, it becomes. And that's what it means to deliver, right? So minding your business, whatever it is that's on the inside of you, it's time to unlock it and get it out. Here's the second thing. You have to measure your business. Your book has to be measurable. Think of a ruler, right? Think of a ruler, and the ruler has inches on it. You have a bunch of stories. You have a bunch of ideas. You have a whole lot, but those ideas must be placed inside of a measure. You have to be able to measure it. When you have there's a difference between a gift and a talent, right? A gift makes room for you. A gift is like an irrevocable trust. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to decide anything about it. You're just born inherently to be able to do it. Some people have charming personalities. Some people have a way with them that there's just their character. They just love to do certain things that they just do them involuntarily. It's just what they do. And some people think that's what they should be doing, but it's actually your talent that is what you should be doing. So your gift makes room for your talent. Your gift makes room and your talent closes the deal. Your talent is the thing that is inherently the skill set that you have, and that is available for trading, right? So you're supposed to be trading your talent in exchange for, not trading like you trade on somebody or like you steal something from or manipulate, but I'm talking about the trading that gives an exchange. There has to be a trade, a transfer. And so your knowledge has to be transferred. And if you leave it inside of you, it will grieve you. It is why you feel like you're not achieving anything. You feel like you're stuck. It's like when a person that you love dies, you go into grief. You know why you grieve the people you die, but you don't grieve people you don't love? It's because when you have poured out love to someone and you have love for someone and they're no longer here to receive it, that love has nowhere to go. And so it then is trapped inside of you. That's what causes the moisture in your eyes and for you to want to cry and think of when you think about them, because the love that you have for them just abruptly interrupted. That flow, that relationship is gone. It doesn't happen when you don't love someone. It's like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry for your loss. But when my mother died, there was a whole different experience, right? There was a whole, because that love I had for her had nowhere to go. The reason your life is egregious, the reason you're stuck, the reason you feel like you should be further along than you are, because the genius that's inside of you is transferable. It's supposed to be transferred. It's supposed to be converted over. It's supposed to be an exchange, right? And so because there's no exchange taking place, it keeps coming back to you. Every day you go to work, I'm sick of this job. I'm sick of this job. I'm sick of Didn't Beyonce teach us that they can't break our soul? Didn't that happen in the COVID when we all isolated 6 feet apart and all of a sudden, bam, they can't break my soul? I don't know how to sing the song, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. You listen to the words to that song and they're talking about the pressure, it's almost like, it reminds me of an Aretha Franklin classic when she was talking about working hard for the city and, all these other things. Listen to these words. These words are capital. These words are speaking to us. These words are reminding us that we are better than 9-to-5s. We are better. Even when you are working, you're not, it's a difference between working and labor. You are not a laborer. You labor in love. You don't labor in your hands and with your skills. You're hustling and grinding. I got to work 2 jobs. I always got to be doing something. You're going to make yourself crazy. It's time for you to work smart, not hard. And you do that by taking your word and putting it into a measure. You have to be able to measure it. It has to be measurable. If your vision isn't measurable, it's not convertible. So your word capital, your words are capital. Your content has capacity. It stretches beyond the pages where you're turning. You have rules of engagement. So you can't put all your content in one thing. Every story does not belong in every sentence or every chapter or even every book. I wrote 12 books. Somebody asked me recently, they said, oh my God, you're always writing. You're always putting something together. Please tell me you have a story about your life. I said, yeah, I stretched it across 12 books. You got to read all 12 of them to get my whole life story. And you know what? That is, we laughed. It was a joke. And I'm going to let the room sit with that. I did write 12 books and I did put my whole life in those books, but I didn't put them in one. Some of us think we have a memoir. We have a this, we have a that. Your words are equity. Your stories belong in certain places. I was writing a book with an author who was talking about the correlation between how you receive, process, and give birth to a child to the way you receive, process, and give birth to destiny. And so in that correlation, there's medical information because we're talking about pregnancy. We're talking about miscarriage, DNA, what happens in the first trimester, how the information just transforms. Did you know that in the first trimester, when the data is transferring, there's a computer type thing that's happening inside your body. And when data is missed, it's called a missed miscarriage. So the pregnancy proceeds and you even deliver a full-time birth. But when the information is needed to come forth and it's not there, it was missed in the first trimester, then that area, that's when you decide that's when at 2 and 3 years old, children are often diagnosed with certain things. Those things happen in the first trimester of the pregnancy. And I can't make this up. I'm telling you, I already did the research over 20 years ago, and I'm telling you that a missed miscarriage is possible. And there's also pregnancy after miscarriage, right? And so we're looking at the medical background of that. Then we're looking at the spiritual piece to that and how God gives us word and how word means sperm or sperm means word and how word is spirit and it is life and why the power of life is in the tongue, because that's where our words are. We are only snared by our words. And so it is blessed. God gave the word and blessed are those who published it. So when we look at the word and he conceals a matter and it's the honor of kings to search it out, that means that wisdom doesn't end when we speak, it begins. And so when we understood that, and then the personal experiences, having struggled with infertility and not being able to, and not at that time, no IVR was available. So we're talking about in the 80s when this person is talking about these experiences with their wife. And so when there was no time for that, how did they make it through these moments? How a woman walked up to them and said she was pregnant because she saw the pulse of the baby breathing in her neck. There are people who can look at you and just tell. Just like somebody can look at you and tell your thoughts are worth $1 million, people can look at you and tell you're pregnant. It's not because your stomach big. It's all because they have an acute ability to see things through their eyes, not with their eyes. And sometimes when they're able to see things we can't see, they can have things in us we don't even know that were available to us and that they were going to be taken from us. Right? And so that's what the industry does. We have a secret admirer of our intelligence. The industries have a crush on you, and they are crushing on you every day, looking for you to put stuff out in the atmosphere so they can buy it up. They're looking for you to go viral so they can say, come on over here, I'll give you $1 million for this, and knowing it's worth $100 million. Come on over here, I'll give you a $5 million deal, knowing it's worth $500 million. But if we don't know who we are and we think we belong in these rooms and we're not bringing the room with us when we show up and we're bringing our own chairs to the meeting because we are the chair. See, that's looking through your eyes, not with them. See, when you look in the trees, you saw woods. I saw the table. I saw the chairs. I saw the fruit in the tree. I saw chop down the tree, open it up, and there was money. There was paper. There was contracts. There were invoices. There were books. There were tables. There were chairs. There were houses. See what's all that came out of me seeing through the tree and not looking at the tree. I am the room. I am the space. My gift makes room for me. And I'm not saying that to be arrogant. It's not a flex. It's me being confident and understanding this fundamental truth. My business is my business and I'm minding my business and my business is measurable. And today that's going to be true for you, and your business needs a language. What is the language of your business? What is the vocabulary? You are living in the transformative age. Everything that you did that did not work before, it only failed not because something was wrong with you. It failed because it needed an environment. It also failed because you were probably doing the right thing the wrong way, or you were doing the right thing at the wrong time. Sometimes things need to be developed over time, and you have to know and discern when that is. When a woman starts her period, she didn't go outside of herself to get that. She was in the nursery with that. She was in kindergarten with that. She was in first grade with that, but it didn't show up until the appointed time, until it was age appropriate, and then it emerged. In the same way, a missed miscarriage, when the data needs to show up and it doesn't, it's a missed miscarriage. So the pregnancy continued and the baby grew up, but then the baby was lacking something critical that was missing in that first trimester when the data was exchanged. Right? And so when you look at the different versions of yourself, you understand that every part of yourself, there's equity to it. And the third thing you need to understand about your business is that you need to learn how to maximize it. Begin to explore the possibilities in your pages. Extend the sentences, not make them long and drawn out. If you read any of my books, my fictional work, you will find that there's a certain system that I use. I created my own system. I couldn't read till I was 15 years old. Now stick with me for the next few episodes and I'll walk you through that and explain that to you. But for that reason, I had to create my own system of how I write and structure books. I've published and produced over 200 assets over the last 30 years because I understood something. There's a system, there's a class that I don't belong to. And that I didn't have a reading disability. I had an ability to read different. And yes, it is true. I learned how to read a room before I read a book. I actually wrote a book before I read one. And so if you think that the creative genius in you, that I'm edifying you to, that I'm pushing you to is out of the sky, some trending topic and some hashtag I made up. No, this is my life and I'm giving it to you. And the reason I'm gifting it to you is because first of all, it costs anything to actually pay attention, and it costs you everything if you don't. And so this podcast is to encourage you, to put you in a place where you have gone beyond the status quo. You're gone beyond the limitations. You're gone beyond the structure of the four walls in a room. You are a room without walls. There are no limits, no restrictions to where your mind can take you. The third thing you need to do, again, is to explore, extend, expand, and experience. Experience the joy of conversion. Experience the joy of seeing your work come alive in someone else's life. Whether that's comedy, whether you're writing comedy and you're on a stage, whether you're trending as an influencer. But it's time for you to use your own influence on yourself. Instead of, it's funny. You get paid to influence other people. But what if you tapped into the level of influence and used it for your own good? How much more would you not be able to create? How much more capital would you be able to build for yourself? And the fourth thing is multiplying your business. Your business must multiply in 3 ways. It does this. Number 1 is increase, acceleration, and then multiplication. Your book has its own calculator. There's something called word count. When you're writing your book, there's word count, page count, chapter count. And then when you're ready to take it to the next level, is 6 by 9, 8 by 11, whatever the size book. There's a trim size. There's a whole bunch of science, numbers, and mathematics to the book. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the expansion of the book. I'm talking about taking a $25 offering and turning it into a $250 offering. And from a $250 offering to a $2,500 offering. From a $2,500 offering to a $250,000 offering. And if you don't think you can do that with one book and one chapter, you are sadly mistaken. I can't even tell you the number of deals that I've closed with books I gave away for free. Not because I sold them. Not because, I didn't sell the most books. I didn't sell more books than you. I'm sure you're listening to this and you've probably sold thousands of books, and congratulations. I want to say congratulations. That's a hard thing to do, and you did it. But let me tell you, I've never sold 1,000 copies of one thing. And I have been in business for more than 15 years and I've never not had a client. And if you think that being a best-selling author is what's going to make you grow, then hey, this podcast is not for you. But if you understand that words are capital and that they are for creativity, and creativity leads to capital and capital leads to conversion, then this is for you. So, but if you want to stay on the systems of this world and deal with your business as capital, credit, collateral, and capacity, and see what happens when you go to the bank, listen, when you understand that you are your creditor, that you're already approved, and that you are already enough, and you're already accepted, and you don't have to fight anybody or prove anything to anyone to be able to own your own lane. Listen, you don't have to own you don't have to be the distributor, the person who fills the orders. You just have to own the process that does it. And today is the first day of the rest of your life. I don't care what you did before today. You have more days behind you than in front of you. Let's preserve those days. And as we close, let's get to the 5th thing that you need for your book. And that's master of your book. Become a master of your book. That's being that transformative, intelligent, brilliant, creative genius I talked about. As a transformer, your content, and you understand your content leads to conversion. As the intelligence in your book shows you how your conversions build capital. And the brilliance, or the sheer brilliance I like to call it, of your work is that you build a capital system. This is a way of which you do things. I have elevated my build a book process from going from writing to building. So I don't write books, I build them. I build them as assets. I don't edit, I audit. I go through line by line and I make sure that there's conversion on every line, that I'm not just wordy. I'm not just saying things. I'm guiding the reader to something, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. Everything I write must be intentional. I audit every single page on every single word. And then the last thing is your creative genius. I know that word is not something that you want to adopt. It sounds like you're blowing smoke up your butt and that you're arrogant or that you're cocky or that you're conceited or even narcissistic or whatever people may say a person who understands who they are is. And so their confidence is intimidating them because they know who they are when they walk in a room. You can't define them. You can't decide for them who they are, what seat they belong in, because it doesn't matter what chair you sit them in. They're going to be there. If there are 12 seats at a table and you give me one, it doesn't matter if you sit me at the head of the table, the end of the table, the authority is going to be in the seat I occupy. And if you don't believe that for yourself, and if you don't believe that every place you go is where you take yourself, then promise you've already missed the mark. You already missed the moment. So your creative genius is the last thing that you need in your business to build a legacy system. People thought that real estate was the key to wealth, but that was a lie. And I say was a lie and not is a lie, because if you still think that, and if you're still on that train of thought, it's time to end that class and transfer to a new class. Come with me to the creative capital class, where I promise you that intellectual property is the asset and intellectual property is the legacy system that you should be building. Not just one asset, but up to 12 assets. Solomon writes in Ecclesiastes, don't just sow in one area and another area, sow in up to 8 areas. Cause why? You never know what evil's going to come up on the earth. Listen, you have to understand that you are a legacy builder. You're not just writing a book just to say you did it. You're not just checking a box, and you're not a box that people check. You are taking back your power. Your book is your business, and you are now minding the business that pays you. Thank you. See you next time on the Book Banker Podcast. All right. Talk to you soon.